All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me touching on the top prop bets for the Saturday 3-game slate in NFL, touching on the best prop bets for both PrizePicks and Underdog. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I do just want to call out that PrizePicks did this kind of weird thing. They did like demons and goblins. I don't know why they chose that name. I guess it's for the emojis, whatever. For someone that is a 9-to-5 site member, what you can do to adjust the odds. Well, first and foremost, like the PrizePicks cheat sheet, I already have this filtered, and so it's only going to include prop bets that have a less than 57% chance to hit, whereas for the NFL cheat sheet and all the other sheets are going to still have no filter on it. Now, the one way you can easily go about kind of filtering the data, as you can see, I have it set by the team right now. A simple thing you could do is go to the metrics slider tab right here, and then you could just adjust this down to 50, whatever percent you want. I don't really know how to go about content wise with this. It's kind of annoying. I do think that there is something to maybe taking advantage of the free squares ish that we're getting. And what I mean by that is we see this with Kevin Durant right here. We got a free square. And so for example purposes, like T. Higgins has a 79% chance to get over 24.5 receiving yard. And so what you could essentially do is give yourself a 79% chance to hit that bet. And so I kind of always mention to you guys that for the average person, given their bankroll and whatnot, I think that when we have a free square, when we have a taco, we should be making the best 5 individual bets that we can with that free square. And this is kind of the tough part about content versus or being a content creator versus just attacking the best prop bets, because I like to kind of practice what I preach to you guys. But anyways, this is an example of kind of what I mean. Now, if you wanted to do a $25 bet to the max amount here, you can. But my example here is that, yes, this is a discounted square. It's not too bad. You're basically, if this was T. Higgins, for example, you'd be basically giving yourself a 79% chance to hit whatever payout it would be. But that's the thing. PrizePicks is adjusting the payouts based off of whichever prop bet there is. So it's a weird thing. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the slate today, or for Saturday. So yes, we have 3 games on Saturday. Honestly, kind of annoying, but we look at the first game. We got Vikings versus the Bengals, 3-point spread, 44 to the over and under. I think we're expecting Nick Mullins to start. Jalen Naylor, who actually made some big plays for the Vikings at the end of the game, he's going to be out. Justin Jefferson, I think he's expected to play, but is dealing with a chest injury. Obviously, if he sits, that's going to be Jordan Addison. That's going to be TJ Hawkinson, really stepping up and playing well again, I think we can assume. For the Bengals, it's weird. They're kind of healthy, and it's definitely an interesting spot for the Bengals. Looking at the Vikings, I thought they played a very good defensive game last game, and so did the Raiders. So to me, it's very tough to really gauge the situation there, because I really saw it more of really good defense as opposed to really poor offense. I do think it's worth calling out Alexander Madison's going to be out. I think we're expecting Ty Chandler to step up. I do want to start out with going over the Bengals. I think they're going to be easier. Again, guys, what I'm going to do for this video, I'm just going to do Underdog. I think that's going to be the most simple approach because they don't have any of the weird data points in there right now. So right now, the best prop bet that we have on Underdog is going to be anytime touchdown for Joe Mixon. That's at about a 0.5. And honestly, I don't mind that. Mixon has kind of been a workhorse for them over the past few games. Not a terrible matchup, but not a great matchup going against the Vikings. It is worth calling out that Chase Brown continues to look good. He was someone I hyped up at the beginning of the season. Never really came to fruition at any point, really during preseason or anything like that. It is nice to finally see him playing better and doing well with the work that he's getting. All in all, snap count wise, we're not too concerned about it. I mean, Joe Mixon still had 63% of the touches, and then Chase Brown had 30. I mean, that's great, but it might be capped at that. Maybe it gets up to 40, but I think that's really all we can expect. And then from there, Jake Browning rush yards, I thought would be an interesting one. I think for them to kind of open up the playbook, they do want Jake Browning to be rushing the football. Now, he's going to get some rushing attempts. We know that. It's just how many yards? Is it going to be a big run, or is it going to be, a short yardage situation where he's running? And so 3.5 rush attempts, I would say that's correct. Jamar Chase receptions is interesting to me at 5.5. Tyler Boyd's receptions is probably correct at 3, but I think he has a great chance to get 3 receptions. Just looking over those two, he only had 4 targets in that game against the Colts. They were very much trying to ground and pound. I'm not exactly sure that's going to be the case in this game. The Raiders were actually pretty successful their first 2 drives, getting the ball to both Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams in short ways, like quick passes and whatnot. I kind of expect that to happen. So if that does happen, I think getting 6 receptions for T. Higgins is not too crazy. At the same time, like T. Higgins could be a little bit more involved. Tyler Boyd, currently questionable. I think we're expecting him to play. I think he has a good chance to get 3 receptions in this game. Again, that game against the Colts, we know their weakness. Their weakness is on the ground. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the Minnesota Vikings. So yes, Nick Mullins is expected to start, and really we're seeing the pass attempts prop here set at 35.5. he is going to be much more of the Kirk Cousins type rather than Dobbs. Now, I felt like they should have done more design runs for Joshua Dobbs. But if this game is going to be that high scoring, you kind of would expect Nick Mullins to throw the football a little bit more, especially maybe with a backup running back in there in Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler, I think, has looked good, though, in his limited work. Now, last week against the Raiders, tough matchup. The Raiders look really good, but it's pretty clear by them trading for Cam Akers that they don't exactly love Ty Chandler. He's kind of one of those weird kind of backup running backs that I think the fantasy industry thinks is all better than, let's say, Madison, and we're all kind of asking for it to happen, and it just doesn't. And we probably just more situational than really we all see. But I bring that up because rush yards at 56.5, that's okay, but really I don't see us getting any big awesome props here at all. And PrizePicks is really throwing off some data points here. It's just super annoying because this is a discount, or this is one of their demons is what it would be. It's just annoying. But he is projected, Jordan Addison, however, to get 49 receiving yards. So for whatever that's worth, if we get news that Justin Jefferson is out, I think this number would definitely go up. I actually don't hate the idea of betting the over 49.5 receiving yards there for him, just given the fact that, if Justin Jefferson's out, he should be able to feast. And then for what's worth, TJ Hawkinson, you could do the free square here. I think that would almost be a lock to hit. Looking at his normal receiving yards total, again, if Justin Jefferson is out, I think there's a good chance that he gets the over there, especially in this game that's supposed to be higher scoring. All in all, that's really all I see for this game right now, given the props that we currently have. And we are getting some lines for Justin Jefferson. Tough to say what to expect from him. I mean, the reason why Jefferson got injured last week was because he's too good. He went up and made a pretty awesome catch on a ball that probably shouldn't have been thrown. It was literally a hospital ball. We made the catch. Awesome play. Looking at the next game, we got the Steelers versus the Colts. A 1.5 point spread. 42.5 is going to be the over and under. And I just mentioned with the Colts that they're a team that you can rush the football against. So I'm kind of expecting that to happen. I'm thinking Najee Harris and also Jaylen Warren are both going to have good games. Looking at the Colts, Jonathan Taylor is still out. That's really the biggest piece of injury news. I mean, obviously, if he was back, that would open up the offense a little bit more. Zach Moss, DFS-wise, has been a disappointment for a lot of people. And I think the talent is really just finally starting to catch up to Zach Moss. He's just not that good. He's definitely a volume guy. I would love to see Tyler Gibson still get more snaps. I think he's a pretty good talent. And Zach Moss only played 83% of the snaps last week. So we'll see. But yes, looking at the prop bets that we were getting, we have Zach Moss anytime touchdown with a high likelihood hit. I don't like that, guys. I really don't. Sure, the game's going to be high scoring, supposed to be close. And all in all, if he's still going to continue to get that volume in kind of an okay matchup, you would think he does have a chance to score a touchdown. I would almost favor Michael Pittman a little bit more. I guess it does make sense. By all means, we could place that bet. I just don't love it. Again, I just don't think he's all that talented. We can see the rush attempts. 18.5. Don't want to touch that. Kyle Granson has been playing more snaps for sure. Actually, I take that back. He's been playing less snaps. So that's kind of interesting because I feel like he's been more involved recently. He scored a touchdown. Or no, he had one big play. I think that's honestly what's just sticking out is that one really big play against Tennessee that's interesting. So probably don't need to touch over 15 receiving yards. I think the player that a lot of people would want to go in on is probably just Michael Pittman, continuing to be kind of hot catching the football. The issue with Michael Pittman is that the lines that we're getting on him are all probably correct. 7 receptions, probably correct, especially against Steelers. 76.5 receiving yards. Yeah, that might be a little bit too low, but also I think it's the correct line. So all in all, to me, we probably just don't want to be doing that. And then we can see from there, in terms of the Colts props that we were getting, none of them are all that great. I would say Zach Moss over receiving yards at 13.5. To me, regardless of how this game goes, I know that the Colts are going to really try to rush the football bunch, but to me, this one seems to be way too low. Way too low. Tennessee's been great at stopping opposing running backs in general. And so it wasn't surprising that he struggled. But man, Gardner Minshew loves passing the football to the running back. And that number, it just seems way too low. 13.5 receiving yards. Yeah, I like that over. So we go ahead and get into the Steelers, guys. The Steelers, I think, are going to be the team that I want to go with the most. It's just figuring out which player that I like the most. So we can kind of start with Jaylen Warren here. We can see the rushing attempts, 53% chance to get over 8.5 rush attempts. Rush yards is set at 43 on Underdog, 44.5 on PrizePicks. And then we also see Najee Harris. We can just touch on both of those. But let's start with Jaylen Warren because to me, Jaylen Warren should get the football a bunch. I do think getting him 9 rushing attempts in this game will make sense. The reason against New England, I think that he didn't get the over rush yards rush attempts, that was very much a grinded out type game. Honestly, getting him snaps, especially up the middle and whatnot, just didn't make sense. I kind of thought it would be a Najee Harris game, and it kind of was. But we can see really since week 9 then. And I think, was that when he was announced as like the starter, or that they're going to make a point of emphasis of getting him the ball more? Anyways, we can see that this game was definitely an outlier. And I think it was very much the match was the reason as to why it was an outlier. So all in all, given the matchup with the Colts, I think he has a great chance to not only get over his rush yards, but rush attempts. I love the fact that he's been involved in the receiving game as well. All in all, I don't know if we can really go wrong with not Jaylen Warren in any regard. I'm probably going to go with the 8.5 rush attempts. I think that's the easiest one. But then from there, let's talk about Najee Harris. So Najee Harris, I do expect to kind of feast as well. Again, the reason why he got a lot of touches is that's a grinded out game against New England. All in all, Mitchell Trubisky was terrible as well. That's going to be the case again today, on Saturday. But all in all, I think that's going to point to the reason as to why Jaylen Warren has a good chance to get his over rush attempts, and also why Najee Harris would have a good chance to really get over his rush attempts, rush yards, whatever it is. But we can see he has been involved in the receiving game lately. And so his over 8.5 receiving yards, I actually do like as well. I think that these two right here are two of the best ones that we are currently getting on Saturday. And that's kind of it. Like rush attempts for Najee Harris, that's probably correct. I agree with the 50-50 split there. Let's go on again to the last game on Saturday. And the last game on Saturday is going to be Denver versus Detroit. Kind of a fun game. Okay. The Broncos have been figuring out ways to kind of come back and play well. Detroit has not been playing well. 4.5 point spread, 47.5 is going to be the over and under. Detroit is starting to get kind of banged up. Looking at Denver, also kind of banged up, I will say. Samaje Perine being questionable is kind of big. If he sits, it's probably going to be Jaleel McLaughlin getting more work, but also just Javonte Williams getting more work. And guys, Javonte Williams looked so good last week. And I know it could have been matchup based, but all in all, he took advantage of the matchup. He looked really good. And snap count wise, they have been trying to get him the football. At the same time, I think we're going to see his snaps are going to be around 55 to 71% or so. It's tough to see it getting more than that, like it was at the beginning of the season, because they tried to get him the football a bunch before he got kind of like re-injured, which was a little bit shocking to me. But Perine looked good. Jaleel McLaughlin looks good. And so it makes sense why they want to mix in those other guys. At the same time, I would think it'd be a mistake not to continue to try to get Javonte Williams the football. Now, we are getting a bunch of fantasy score props for this. And boy, Jerry Jeudy, 2 terrible drops. He dropped a touchdown he didn't drop it, but he didn't get both feet down. And there was one on the sideline that was like a 30-yard pass that he dropped. Definitely interesting that the data likes the over here. And then also definitely interesting that the data doesn't like the over for the other guys. And I would say, man, he should have a decent game. Like the snaps are still there for him. Maybe not as much as like they were before because he's just not that good. And I don't know. Like, I don't think I want to trust any of these. Like the data's telling us to bet the under for Cortland Sutton. Probably a little bit too much touchdown dependent. I will say that he made an awesome touchdown catch last week, but we can see over the past 2 games, especially when we shifted for underdog scoring, he does not hit those overs. And it's just, they don't have a high enough passing volume type game. So where the data is telling us that, you know, Sutton's not going to have the best game, I can kind of agree with that. And yeah, we can see with Wilson, he's just not throwing the football enough. 35 is his most pass attempts recently, and that's just not enough volume to love. And so this is probably correct. 52% chance for him to get over 16.75 for a fantasy score. That's probably right. I will say Javonte Williams, I think, has a good chance to get the over if both Cortland Sutton and also Russell Wilson do not get that over, because it is a high game total. And like I said, he did look good. Okay, so now we can see why the fantasy score for Jerry Jeudy is kind of being favored for the over, because the projection for him is at 3.5 receptions, and it is favoring the over there. So, that's at least 2 points there. Receiving yards, 44.5. So, it's already at 6 or so. I guess I could see why it likes that, but all in all, I don't think I want to chase that. And if you think the Bengals are going to be playing from behind, Samaje Perine for over receiving yards is one that does make sense. That's a bet that you could definitely game script wise. That being said, Javonte Williams has been involved in the passing game lately. They've been, trying to get him the football in the passing game. Detroit isn't the best at stopping opposing running backs. I think one of those two, I guess they haven't, but it didn't seem like that over the past couple of weeks. Watch interest. But yeah, honestly, I'm fine with Javonte Williams over receiving yards. I'm fine with Samaje Perine over receiving yards. I think that those two both have some legs to them, but all in all, those are probably better bets on the sports books. And honestly, on PrizePicks, I'm actually curious. I was wondering if they're going to give us a goblin for receiving yards for Javonte Williams. They're not. So now we go ahead and get into Detroit. Obviously, Detroit has been struggling lately, and it really just comes down to Jared Goff not playing well. And part of that just comes down to Jared Goff getting pressure. You give Jared Goff some pressure, he is going to struggle. Now, it seems like every single week we got Sam Laporta for over fantasy score popping. I get it. He's playing a bunch of snaps. He's getting a bunch of targets. Last week, with Jared Goff playing as terribly as he was, he cost us a 5 for 5 slip on Underdog. Kind of painful there. did have 6 targets. They did give him, I believe, a rushing attempt inside the red zone as well. Is very weird. A little bit concerning that he didn't have a good game against Chicago, but in 2 games against Chicago, that just hasn't happened. Now, it could just be a thing against Chicago, but gets a very good matchup going against Denver there. And all in all, I think, given the matchup against Denver, I think he does have a great chance to get over this line of 9.54 for a fantasy score on Underdog. From there, David Montgomery. I don't want to touch this one, guys. David Montgomery can get a reception or 2 in the passing game, and it could pop. It's probably going to be a screenplay. I don't love touching that. We are seeing Jahmyr Gibbs for over receptions at 3.5. Again, if this game is going to be as high scoring as it is, I do think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be involved in the receiving game, but man, that to me seems to be a little bit too thin, because I think Detroit does have a good chance to be playing with the lead, and I think there is a good chance that we see a little bit more of David Montgomery than we do Jahmyr Gibbs. It's like a direct correlation, I would say, like game script wise. And so in a weird way, if you like David Montgomery's props, meaning you think Detroit's going to be winning in this game, then you're betting Samaje Perine over receiving yard. If you think Detroit's going to be playing from behind, or the game's going to be really close for most of it, you probably like Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more. You can very much game script those two. And so it's for you to decide which ones you like the most. From there, we are seeing Jameson Williams is about a push to get under 2 receptions. It's okay. Jahmyr Gibbs fantasy score is okay. Like, all in all, those are all okay ones. So let's just recap the best prop bets that we have for this slate. And this is just looking at Underdog right now. I don't know if I love the anytime touchdown again for Zach Moss. I think it does somewhat make sense. If you guys just want to do Laporta, Zach Moss, I guess I'd be fine with that. And again, this is on Underdog only. And then I think Jalen Warren rush attempts is probably my favorite one on Underdog. So I get 3 slip bet, maybe just a 2 slip bet. Laporta over fantasy score, and then Jalen Warren over 8.5 rushing attempts. I feel pretty good about that. We'll take a peek at Underdog. And again, guys, with PrizePicks doing the weird promotion thing, I'm just going to drop this slider down to about, I don't know, 56 or so, just so we're not really getting those goblins or demons. Now, you do see Jake Browning's being pulled in for that. Same thing for Gardner Minshew. You wouldn't want to touch those anyways. And then here's another one. Let's just scroll down a little bit here. So now we get David Montgomery. I don't exactly love that. Najee Harris over receiving yards. I actually feel pretty good about that one. 8.5. I think that's a good one for the over. Jahmyr Gibbs receptions. That's really all we're getting. And then rush attempts for Jalen Warren, I feel pretty good about. So I'm not going to lie. It feels weird giving a bet slip with both Pittsburgh running backs in there. If you wanted to choose one or the other, I get it. I do think Jalen Warren over rush attempts is probably one of my favorites. I didn't see this one at all. I do think Nick Mullins does have a chance to get over 22.5 pass completions, and then 3.5 receptions for Jahmyr Gibbs. And then for what it's worth, I should call out, we are getting some decent tackles and assist props and kicking points props, like Matt Prater. I'm fine putting in there. And then these two as well to make a 6 slip bet. So let's do that. But really, if you're trying to use those, that'd be for the full slip. So if you want to, you can do that. These are going to be the ones if you just do the Saturday games. So all in all, you guys got the bet slip. So that's going to be all for today's video. If you guys want access to the 9to5sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheet, it is available for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Let's have a good slate. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.